Over 24 people have been killed and many more wounded after severe storms that spawned at least one violent tornado ripped across Mississippi late on Friday, according to the state's emergency management agency on Saturday. It left a trail of damage more than 100 miles long and hundreds without shelter. Though 4 people earlier reported missing have been located. Piles of twisted metal can be seen here in the western Mississippi town of Rolling Fork, which was hardest hit. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves on Saturday issued a state of emergency in the affected areas. On Twitter, Reeves said, "The scale of the damage and loss is evident everywhere affected today: homes, businesses, entire communities." President Joe Biden described the images from Mississippi as heartbreaking. He said in a statement that he had spoken with Reeves and offered his condolences, as well as full federal support for the recovery. While the White House said Federal Emergency Management Agency Director Deanne Criswell will travel to Mississippi on Sunday to join those already on the ground. At least 24 reports of tornadoes were issued to the National Weather Service on Friday night and into Saturday morning by storm chasers and observers. The reports stretch from the western edge of Mississippi north through the center of the state and into Alabama.
Ratcheting up his already incendiary rhetoric, former President Donald Trump, in a 1 a.m. social media post on Friday, warned of potential death and destruction if he were to face criminal charges in a New York City investigation. The post on Trump's Truth social media site was the latest in a string of verbal attacks against Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg since last Saturday, when Trump wrongly predicted he would be arrested 3 days later. Bragg's office, which is probing hush money payments by Trump's former attorney to adult film star Stormy Daniels made in the midst of the 2016 election, said they would not be intimidated. Trump's vague but violent threat, for some, recalled his language ahead of the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, when Trump's supporters, inspired by his false claims of voter fraud, launched an attack in a failed bid to stop Congress from certifying President Joe Biden's victory. Meanwhile, ABC News reported on Friday, citing sources, that a judge rejected Trump's bid to prevent former aides, including his ex-chief of staff Mark Meadows, from testifying before a grand jury probing the January 6th attack. The federal grand jury is investigating failed efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn the results of the 2020 election, one of 2 criminal investigations into the former president being handled by special counsel Jack Smith. On Saturday, Trump will hold a campaign rally in Waco, Texas, 30 years after a raid on the Branch Davidians religious sect by federal agents resulted in 86 deaths, including 4 law enforcement officers. Waco has become a symbol of government overreach for some right-wing extremist groups. In an email, a Trump campaign spokesperson said Waco was chosen because it is situated between several major population centers and has the infrastructure needed to host a large event.
One police officer and a protester were seriously injured in France on Saturday, this time in clashes during an unauthorized demonstration against the construction of a water reservoir for farm irrigation in western France. In the rural town of Sainte-Soline, at least 6,000 protesters had joined the march, according to the prefect of the surrounding region, defying a ban on protests at the site where a similar demonstration last October also turned violent. Police fired tear gas to repel some of the protesters, who threw fireworks and other projectiles as they crossed fields to approach the construction area. At least 3 police vehicles were set on fire. Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin condemned the violence, which he blamed on far-left activists. He added that 1 police officer and 1 protester were in critical condition, and said altogether 7 protesters and 24 police officers were injured. Around 3,200 police officers, some in helicopters and on quad bikes, were deployed for the demonstration, authorities said. Disturbances had started in nearby areas on Friday ahead of Saturday's violence. The irrigation project protest comes after weeks of anti-pension reform demonstrations that have turned violent since the French government pushed through the legislation without a final parliamentary vote. France's worst drought on record last summer sharpened the debate over water resources in the European Union's biggest agricultural sector. Supporters say artificial reservoirs are a way to use water efficiently when needed, while critics who call them mega basins argue they are outsized and favor large farms.